we just talked about Google Fiber roof. Maybe, since my internet just kicked me out and I have to come back on. Okay, I am going to share my screen. We'll start doing our slide. Just my welcome slides as we come through, and we'll watch for Angela to come through. So just welcome again to our injury prevention learning series. Again, we're talking about smart wheeling, so law, safety, micromobility. We will let Katherine and Angela introduce themselves, but I just want to let Katherine know how much we appreciate all the work that she's done in this area. The advocacy, getting the word out, especially, since she's working with the kids, but we appreciate it, and then come up into those teenage years as well, working in our adult center. So appreciate that. And then again, when Angela gets on, we'll let her introduce herself. These are just the disclosures. None of the presenters have any disclosures that they needed to talk about. Just as our accreditation and just talking about the activity and what you guys need for this. So obviously attend, participate in presentation. We will send you a link for a post-presentation survey. These questions I know get redundant, but they are required for our certification in our CME. So we'll send these to you, and then that certificate will be sent out to you upon completion of the survey. You can use it for the RN approved licensing, and then as well for our EMTs. It has been approved through BEMS that you can utilize this as long as it falls underneath your guidelines. Always remember about our education that we have. So we have our trauma ground rounds, just so you guys are aware. We'll send out an email about this as well, but our July trauma ground rounds is going to be canceled. We've got some fellowship presentations that are going to be, or some fellow presentations that are going to be taking place that time. So we will not be doing the trauma ground rounds in July. That's correct, right, Ruth? Yes. Okay. Our EMS trauma ground rounds every other month, our quarterly case review, and then our injury prevention learning series. We've got our podcast that comes out. We actually have 3 podcasts lined up that we're going to get scheduled on some awesome things that we're going to talk about. So please make sure that you follow us and listen to our podcast. And if you've got any ideas, anything you want to hear, or if you want to be part of that podcast or even part of our injury prevention learning series, please reach out to Ruth or I and let us know. We always talk about yellow dot safety. So again, older drivers, we want to make sure that they're safe on the road. If you work for an EMS agency, we have these posters that you can put up in your stations. And then also for our police department, they can hang these up as well. So same thing, get a hold of Ruth and I if you want to see this. We have our EMS education site. So always you can log on to this EMS education site and look for any education that has to do with any of our interdisciplinary teams. So the stroke team, STEMI team, trauma team. You can access any of our EMS trauma ground rounds, anything like that. And then if you guys are wondering about my background. So we are getting the word out early about the TCAA National Injury Prevention Day media contest. Although they are not accepting until August, we are trying to get the word out now. So as kids, college students, whatever the case may be, are out on summer break, they can start identifying who their safety superheroes are in their area and maybe start working on this project. And as they come back to school, they're ready to go with an idea and they can submit this project. We want to get more submissions than we can handle this year because we love them. We're so creative, love them to come through. So throughout the year, you'll see me with this background going on and then just promoting the National Injury Prevention Day media contest. And that is all I had. So I don't see, do you guys see Angela in yet? We'll watch for her, Katherine, but we'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and we'll keep watching for Angela and I'll see if she gets a hold of me at all, if she's having any issues getting in.
Hey, I'm going to shoot her a text really quickly as well,
Okay. Perfect.
just so that we can see if she needs some help.
I know I put this in before some of you guys were there, but I'm also going to put in the chat the recent ACS e-bike statement, e-bike safety statement in the chat.
Okay, so I'm Katherine Stokes, and I do what Jamie and Ruth do for the U, but I do it for primary children's hospitals. So my coverage area is super wide, right? And as an injury prevention nurse, I have to really try to be intentional about where I spend my time And it's been interesting learning this role because it is really unique. The U is a level one trauma center. They also get patients from all over, but we see a large amount of patients from Utah and all the surrounding states because we are the level one pediatric trauma. And so one of the things that I noticed, oh, I guess I should share my slides for you. One of the things I noticed, so I've been a nurse for, sorry, I can't think and talk at the same time. So I've been a nurse for around 20 years, and I spent a long time in the PICU at Primary Children. So, I've kind of seen what happens when everything goes wrong, even with the best well-intended parents. And so I feel like I've been able to really add a human aspect and a story to injury prevention where we've had some great coordinators in the past that have tapped into some data, but I think I've really gone all in. And so I noticed last summer, I have the trauma pager and it was like so frequent, right? E-bike, e-bike, e-bike on the trauma page. And we really didn't have any injury prevention paraphernalia to hand out to families, education, and really these were looking like motorcycle crashes, right? These were high speed, high impact, impacting, doing a lot of facial trauma, chest wall injury. We were seeing lungs extravasation, like spleen lax, liver lax, really the stuff that I used to see. I worked in shock trauma at IMC and at LDS hospital. And so stuff that I hadn't seen and for a long time. We took care of a lot fewer motorcycle crashes with kids, but this is what that was looking like. And so I started kind of raising the alarm and trying to get people's buy-in on creating new materials and really getting public information out there. And as injury prevention professionals, we have to work pretty closely with our marketing and communications team to get messages out there. Intermountain and Primary Children's is very particular about what messaging they want out there, which is good for brand and maintaining integrity and reputation. However, as a nurse, you see a problem, one of the first things you want to do is work to fix it, right? And so you have to begin to look for other ways. Um, and so I kind of just started gathering data, biding my time a little bit, but also getting a little bit nosy, worming my way into meetings and finding out who could make things happen within my organization. Um, and right at the beginning of the legislative session, actually right before I started looking at what bills had been filed. As an injury prevention professional, I just went to the keyword search, which I'm happy to show all of you how to do on the legislative website. Super easy, very user friendly. And I just started looking for bills that could impact pediatric injury and prevent them. And so I had a whole stack of bills. And by the time I figured out who our government relations people were, and I kind of figured out how to get into one of their meetings. So it was pretty fun because they're like, so wait, who are you? And I just kind of broke it down the way a nurse would break it down, right? Like, here's the situation, here's the background, here's my assessment and my recommendation. And from my big stack of bills, one of the ones that they finally got behind was the e-bike bill. So I was previous to like getting the official blessing, I was able to go to committee meeting and just speak as a private citizen, but subject matter expert. I think Jamie showed up online with me, which was awesome. So I'm sorry I'm rambling, but that's another thing that I think is so important is getting your friends lined up to support, right? We as clinicians have a network of people that pretty much agree, like politics aside, we can all agree that there are preventable injuries out there. And that one of the most upstream prevention methods there is legislation and policy. So I kind of started telling my friends, what I had been doing and what I was interested in. I gave like pre-templated messages to, my subject matter experts and asked them to reach out if they were comfortable. Of course, trying not to be pushy, but if they were comfortable to reach out to their lawmakers. One of the great discoveries that I made through this process was that lawmakers are super responsive over text message. So in Utah, they are given cell phones and they have iMessage. So you go to the website that Jamie dropped in the chat, and you look up your lawmaker and you shoot them a text. Here's my little S bar. Here's who I am. And it was actually one of the primary methods of my advocacy, other than what I'll go into next. Um, but ultimately, this law passed. And we'll kind of talk about some of the other reasons why. So that's our background. Let's see if I can get my slides to advance. Ultimately, what this law does, it just modernizes and kind of, I haven't had a chance to read the ACS's current statement, but they put one out in 2025 that said, here's our standards. And this brings it pretty close. The AAP recommends no kids under the age of 16 ride these. We all know that that's not happening. But this law expands a helmet requirement to riders under the age of 21. During the advocacy work that I did, speaking with the bill sponsor, so I directly started reaching out to him right when I discovered the bill, first as the private citizen, and then second as an official representative of Intermountain Health. But in the committee meeting that Jamie and I went to, they had one gentleman say, I think helmets might be a deterrent to ridership. He was an avid cyclist advocate. And that same day, the bill was changed. It was updated to require helmets only for those individuals under the age of 16. And I saw that because I have my email alert set up, which we can show you how to do later. And I immediately reached out to the lawmaker and I said, you know what I think would be a deterrent to ridership? Death or hospitalization. And he was like, Katherine, I totally get it. It was only that one guy. You'll see a new bill in the morning. And sure enough, I got pinged in my email. He had restored that helmet requirement. And I bring it up, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. What I'm trying to say is that one person can make a difference. And all it takes is being willing to be vulnerable, put yourself out there. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable diving into politics, and I do understand, but we as clinicians are subject matter experts, and the lawmaker does not know if we don't tell them. They are just a human being living their life like the majority of the public is, that we're trying to get to be safer. And they really haven't seen what we've seen. They haven't seen the consequences unless they have someone close to them or a family member. So I am so passionate that we try, right? And even if your organization isn't behind you, that was before my organization was behind me, that I said that. And I'm a private citizen. I pay taxes. I deserve to have my voice heard by my representatives. That's my right as a citizen. So when you start to worry about the politic aspect, I totally understand, but know that no organization can take that right away from you. That is just your right for being a resident of Utah, or of your district. And so just if that helps kind of push you over into being willing to shoot a text or two during the legislative session, do it. It makes a difference. So the law also sets some shared language for families. So it designates what a class 1, class 2, and class 3 device are. A class 1 is pedal assisted and caps at 20 miles per hour. So you have to be pedaling for that motor to kick in and help you. A class two will assist you up to 20 miles per hour, but you can do throttle only. And this is one that we see a lot of kids get into danger with because of their ability to manage both. So they end up not being able to stop. These are a lot of these kids on these devices end up hitting trees, walls, parked cars. At least that's what we're seeing in our trauma bay. A class three is pedal assist, but helps you up to 28 miles per hour. We're seeing a lot of class three in our intersection accidents where the rider has failed to yield. Um, so this is where a driver has no chance to brake and they don't see the rider. Anything that goes over 20 miles per hour without pedaling is a high-powered device. And these may need a driver's license or and motorcycle endorsement. No one under the age of 16 should be driving these or writing these, but they are. I see them out in the community. I was out doing a trauma simulation at Saratoga Springs yesterday. We did a PEDS trauma sim with EMS, and I saw two very young girls on a single device, which is also not legal. It wasn't a two-seater, no helmet, riding through Saratoga Springs on a very busy street. So it is still happening. We have work to do, right? But that's ultimately what the law does. It clarifies the classes, it clarifies the age requirements. Ages 8 to 15 to be able to legally ride these will need a safety certificate from a course that's coming. Part of the advocacy work that I did made it so the lawmaker reached out to me to help create the course. So it is great. It's being made by the people who did the ATV course, which is awesome. It's multidisciplinary. There's highway patrol on the team, DPS, people from all over that are creating this course. Now, I know a lot of the public has been questioning why enact the law and not have the course ready, but that is because we are losing kids' lives and adults. Kids are dying, people are dying. And so we needed that helmet to go into effect. And also with the legislative session, most laws go into effect the first week of May of that year, of that session, if the law passed. So that's just kind of all the laws across the board you'll see went into effect May 6th, 2026 from the last legislative session. So that's one of the questions I know that comes up with the public. They are supposed to have line of sight with their kid based on the law. If the kid doesn't have the safety certificate, again, that's not happening. But law enforcement has big buy-in. They were big backers of this bill, and what they have been offered overtime through the DPS to do blitzes. And what they're doing is not, they can hold the device if the kid's acting unsafe or not following the laws, but they're not really doing that yet. They are explaining what the expectation is, making phone calls home with the kid. So they're not really citing kids yet, unless the kid runs. You've probably seen that in the news. If they run, they will cite them. And so that's a big educational hurdle. We have been trying to do blitzes on media to get the information out there, both news articles and interviews. So there's a lot of hurdles to getting the public fully informed, but you hear about it everywhere you go now. So every prevention event I've been at, they parents want to talk about it and are asking about it. So I think that it's going to still, the trajectory of injuries are probably still going to rise for a while we really inform the public about this law. But we should hopefully see a plateau and then we can amend. This was an amendment of a law that actually the Senate sponsor was the first. He's an avid e-bike rider. He loves them. So he created the first e-bike law in Utah. And so we can always amend this law as we go. But it's pretty darn good. Like we kind of lead the nation right now, which is amazing for Utah, right? Where we're kind of like, oh, personal freedom matters more. Um, but this work has led into now I'm doing some car seat safety work because our seatbelt laws are more protective of adults than children. And in the interim committee, which is tomorrow, we'll be presenting a new bill. So, once you get started, it kind of can build from there. And I think if there are any takeaways from everything that I did, I believe so deeply that clinicians, EMS, first responders, police, who really are the ones that are patching up people from any kind of injury, we've got to be willing to tell our lawmakers what we're seeing and what's going on. Um, so this is one of the, I think, crucial pieces during this session. So I was able to officially get Intermountain to say, yes, you can represent us. And then I went to the Senate Transportation Committee meeting and did a testimony. And I think our data was so crucial. And this is data that is an underrepresentation of the problem because our trauma registries haven't always kept up. I think a lot of these e-bike and e-scooter accidents are being coded under bicycle or pedestrian. But this data really helped move people. But again, I think it was the personal story of these children and their lives being stopped. One of the lawmakers, he's super cute. Winterton, I think is his name. He's kind of a grandpa type. And he, at the beginning of what we were presenting, he was like, well, what am I going to tell my grandkids? They love these. And you could see him kind of being quite dismissive of what we were trying to accomplish. But by the time I got to speaking about what this looks like emergency life-saving brain surgery or, open abdominal surgery and long-term hospitalization and rehabilitation and possibly death. And all that fun that you're talking about with your grandchildren goes away. Like friendships stop, school's put on hold, the work for parents is put on hold. So it really, I think, took it from a data element, which you see lawmakers all the time kind of shut off because they hear a lot of data. It's understandable. They're only human. And it clicked them over into, oh, this could be my kid or my grandkid, you know. And again, I think it's a clinician or a first responder that can really tell that story. So, so we were able to get it to become law. Before I go into all of this, this is kind of our call to action section. If you're interested, I know that people are hesitant, but I'm happy to always like talk you through it if you begin to become interested in legislative work. Um, what questions do you have about the law, if any?
I think knowing because I'm still learning what the different types of bikes are. So at a glance, I would not be able to identify these. So how are they planning on, maybe the police and those or others that are enforcing it are more aware of what bikes are what, but how are they planning on enforcing it? And where are we seeing educational opportunities to learn about like the different types of helmets and once it
Right.
goes this fast, you need this type of helmet. What are those options looking like?
Yeah, so law enforcement has been trained, and they also can tell when people hack these. So kids actually at the retailer. So I was at a conference last month, and one of the nurses there was like, "Hey, I was at this bike shop, and I overheard this salesperson teaching the kid how to hack the device to go faster." And so I went to the bike shop after the conference, and I was like, I heard this happens, and they're like, well, what fun is it if we're not? And I'm like, well, it's illegal now. And also it really is no fun because these devices go faster and kids are hospitalized. So retailers are also supposed to adhere to this law. And if Angela is able to join, she can speak to that. She owns Bingham Cyclery. But they are supposed to counsel families. The thing is, there are gaps, Ruth. They can buy these online. So the state of California has made it so that Amazon, it is illegal for them to sell anything over a class 3 in California. So I think that there's some work we could do there, right? Like, let's make it illegal here too. But families, I think, are the most important piece of this puzzle is they need to learn what they are giving their kid. And I think a lot of times they think it's an e-bike and maybe it's advertised like that, but it actually is an e-motorcycle or a high-powered device. They're under a lot of pressure because all the other kids in the neighborhood have them. But the law gives them cover, right? As a parent, hopefully you can say to your kid, look, the law doesn't allow it, and I would, but I can't. Um, Law enforcement has their hands full with this one, but the bikes are labeled. I'm sure people can scratch it off or put a sticker over it. But what they're basing it off of is they're so used to seeing 20-mile-per-hour school zones. And so they're basing it off of their knowledge, watching traffic and flow. And if they see that kid going faster, or without a helmet, they're going to pull them over. Um, so, so I think, and then educational opportunities with the helmets. I've been I've been in a bunch of interviews and I've been trying to share. We really want people in the NTA 8776. That's an e-bike rated helmet. It has waves, that I have it. It's in my car, but it has waves that will collapse on impact and absorb a lot of that energy. So it's not a MIPS. A MIPS would be more protective than a bike helmet. Bike helmet's really only rated for about 15 miles per hour. So we're definitely not protecting kids enough if we are not teaching them how to select the correct helmet. The Consumer Product Safety Commission has a helmet grid that is on their website. I can drop it in the chat, but it's a little bit difficult to read, I would say, and so kind of confusing in that there's a section for bikes and scooters that I think parents might go straight to, but really they need to be looking at the section for motorized bikes and scooters. Anything that can maintain 20 miles per hour needs to be in that section. And so it's a different class of helmet. Um, so flyers, I've created flyers and sent them all over. Um, and I know Unified and I were at Mill Creek Venture Out, and they've got a great flyer, and they're a pretty large agency. So news agencies or sorry, police agencies are doing a lot on social media, and a lot of them have created single pagers. And so I think it's just going to take a whole lot of people that care about this and are willing to go out there and share the information. I don't know if that answered your question, but
And Catherine, the link I put in is with the Division of Outdoor Recreation. It's their kind of flyer.
yeah.
What is an e-bike? Is an e-bike? So it's got a picture. And this might not be, it's not specific to e-bikes, mountain bikes, but this is also a resource. I don't know if they'll share this already, but on what they do with mountain bikes in Utah and what you can do there.
That's super helpful. Yeah, and they've been a big part of the education and the public information campaign. Um, are you seeing my screen or my PowerPoint?
We're still seeing your PowerPoint on injury prevention, outreach, and action.
Okay, sorry.
So it's got just the
Let me
amendment
just
on there.
drop this in the chat so that when people want to, they can look up the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Okay, so any other questions about what the law does, how we get the information out there, resources? Okay. So we'll send out these slides, but where do you even begin? If you want to make this kind of upstream difference, you may never want to touch it and only like work in your regular ways, and that's okay. No judgment from me. This can end up feeling like a can of worms, but I personally feel like you can go as deep or as light as you want. So it could be that you look up your lawmaker and you send them a message about a law that you know is up for debate and text them and say why your voice matters. You know, I do XYZ for work, or I'm passionate because in my neighborhood XYZ is happening. But how do you even find bills? So I did put a little screenshot here. The le.utah.gov website is way easier to navigate than it used to be. But you just click on bills, go to keyword search, and search for things that you think are important to you. And then you click on track your bill. And you have to set up an account. But after you set up an account, anytime you log in, all you have to do is click on your email address on the upper right of the screen, and it'll take you straight to your bill tracker. If you wanted to follow the committee that your bill would be in, there's a committee tracker as well, and you can go online. You don't have to take yourself all the way up to the Capitol. You can find out when that meeting is, click the Zoom link, and during the public comment section, you just click the little raise your hand part and try to have a nice, concise message. You know, thank you for letting me speak. My name is this. This is who I am. So they want to know your name and who you represent, whether that's yourself or your org, and tell them your thing, and that's it. And it's so much easier than being up there and all sweaty and nervous. And you can try it if you ever feel like doing it. I think it's really important to communicate early and often. These bills can just be killed in a committee meeting. So you'll be like so excited because you see this bill that you think is going to make a huge difference, and its first committee meeting, it's voted down. So if you think it's important before that committee meeting, click on all those committee members online and send them a message. And then they can go, oh, I heard from a nurse. I heard from a firefighter. I heard from a police officer, you know, and they might listen more. And it's really, you know, 5 minutes of your time or less to send that text message and see. If you are super passionate and you don't mind being annoying, like I was during this last session, you could broaden it beyond just yourself and be like, hey, friend, family member, take a look and see what you think of this bill. And if you like it, you know, will you consider sending a text message? Here's some sample language if you want. You know, super easy. Some people won't touch that, and that's okay. Um, one of the things that I think I've said, I've got Don Van Borum, who is so kind to be on the news with me, and we're working hard again, like Ruth was asking, how do we get this word out? How do people know? Um, but I was reading Everything is Tuberculosis. It's a book by John Green, who is the guy who wrote The Fault in Our Stars, which was like this tender, sweet movie. Anyway, he's just a normal guy, or maybe not a normal guy, super bright, normal guy who did a deep dive on tuberculosis, and he wrote this nonfiction book on tuberculosis. But one of my favorite quotes from this book, I think, really taps into when we switch over from just listening or just doing our jobs into empathy, is when we go from looking at um, actual humanity and not as a statistic or as a problem, but every single one of our patients are human that deserve to live. They have people that love them, and they're doing the best they can, and we can make an impact on keeping them here on this earth and preserving our hospital resources for other people who need them for something that wasn't preventable. So I think it's really important that we try. Happy to try to answer any other questions or speak a little bit to what maybe Angela would have said.
Did you ever hear back from her, Catherine?
No, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I know she
So
was going to talk about safety, and we're going to get her on a podcast though. So for those of you who want to hear that, we're going to get a podcast going on this topic with Catherine and Angela. Um, Another, is it Seth is his name? That's in the biking community, and
yeah, Seth with
then
Bike Utah, he does a lot of education
Bike
and
Utah, and then Unified Police. We're gonna get on the podcast, and
yeah.
so I apologize that we were not able to get Angela on here, but open it up to ask Catherine some questions. I'm actually going to put the survey link in the chat. So you guys can go ahead and take that survey as well to get your certificate. But yeah, open to any questions, ask away.
I'm happy to screen share the legislative website. I don't know if that
Okay.
would be useful
Catherine,
for
what are you guys doing for safety prevention? Or are you doing things in the emergency department? What are you guys doing now?
I'm so sorry, what was that?
It says any new safety or prevention resources that you're using in the emergency department.
Oh, yes. So we have just our single page flyer, and we are getting the nurses for incidents where the kid can just go home to provide that flyer. I will send that to Jamie, who can send it to I'm trying to think if I do have a website stood up now, that we can drop in the chat. But yeah, I think that we're just trying to make sure that every touch point, there's an injury prevention screening for any trauma, and that question is being asked. Do you have an e-bike? It's obvious when they come in for an e-bike injury. Um, and so we're using a flyer that I created and referring people to this website. The Health Department of Health and Human Services is working on an e-bike survey as well, which could be really great to get into the U as well. It's just a QR code that families could scan, and it's just assessing who has e-bikes in their household. So those are the main things we're using in the ED. We do a prevention screening with every trauma patient, and it includes, do you need a helmet, window falls, firearm safety, helmet safety. I think I said that one already, car seat safety. So it involves our highest mechanisms of injury. Um, so that's another resource. But I think that it's tough because our website and our resources are going to be more pediatric focused. They're helpful, but maybe you could adapt them for yourself with an adult focus if needed. Like mine doesn't focus on alcohol, although it probably should. Teenagers drink. And it's illegal to drink and ride these now.
Yeah, Marla, we would love any resources you have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the more we can have, the better. The more we can share, the better. To get this across our state, having the same message and the same voice, just about safety. We're all about it.
Yeah. And not having to reinvent the wheel. It has that secondary effect of, like Jamie said, like we are using that shared language. But it also lightens your load if
Mhm.
someone's already done the work and the research.
Yeah. And connecting with the community, that's another big thing that I love that we're able to do is connect with that community. And I can share that when I was talking to Angela, I wanted her to talk about any barriers that adults had to wearing helmets. Like what was their resistance? And
Yeah.
she said she actually doesn't run into that very often. But yet I drive down the street, and unless I think you can tell, unless there's somebody that probably rides all the time, they're not wearing a helmet. Their kids are in
Yeah.
helmets, but they're not in helmets. So we talk
Yeah.
about that as we talk about role models is, the adults need to role model. I don't want to hear from the youth, oh, I can't wait until I'm 18 and I don't have to wear a helmet anymore. That's
exactly.
not what we want to hear.
Yeah, and there's data that supports what the parent does is what the child will do, even if the parent doesn't believe the kid is listening, they are. Those, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Marla, I will make you a co-host right now, and if you want to, go ahead and share your screen.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah, my name's Marla. I work for the Washington State Department of Health and the Injury and Violence Prevention EMS trauma section. So I work a lot with our EMS first responders and emergency department, trauma program managers, etc. So, and that's a big topic in Washington State right now. So
Yes.
let me,
I know I
now
have
that
my
we're on
friends in
Zoom,
Southern
everything's in a
California that
different
are doing a
location.
lot. Yeah.
All right. So hopefully you can see this. Can you see that all right?
yeah.
Okay, great. So this was designed as a more of a rack card for a leave behind for our EMS first responders. We have a lot of accidents that aren't transports also, but great learning opportunities that somebody didn't get injured badly enough that they were released at that point. So the front side of the document is really tailored and for kids, youth, language-wise, but the target audience is youth, and then page one, and then the back side is for adults and their role models, and because we found it's super important for the adults to wear the helmets and be good role models for the children. So the language is fun. Again, first and foremost of, protecting the brain and wearing a helmet, of course, but staying sharp and not zoning out and watching for cars and all the little distractions, knowing the rules of the road. And this is all based on, the data that we've seen coming out, and what those narratives, what the landscape looks like. Make sure that drivers can see you, wear bright clothing, turn on your lights, but again, night riding, opt out if you can, check your ride, a lot of, brakes, tires, batteries, things like that, building your skills. That's what we find with some of the younger children is they don't have the skills to go these speeds, so adding that piece in. And then, we just had a bad accident here near where I live on a trail, that is very highly used that, again, somebody wasn't communicating. And that seems to be a common occurrence. And they were passing and nobody knew, and there was a bad accident. So anyway, then the backside is for our adults and role models. And just, talking to kids about the importance of safe and responsible riding. And then I don't know why it's not scrolling down on this, but let's see here. I don't know how far down. Our Washington Traffic Safety Commission created a really nice e-guide ride, and it does exactly the same thing as the flyer that you just showed on. It kind of filters, do you have two wheels on your bike? Do you have a motor? Do you have, kind of filters out what kind of product you have and then how it applies to the state laws that we have. So again, setting rules, teaching skills, using the correct pathway. So I'm happy to send this and you can take a look at it and garner what you'd like from it. But it's been really well received. And we have some surveillance studies that are continuing in our state right now with Harborview and DOH and Traffic Safety Commission. So some really good work coming out of Washington as well. So this was created for my trauma coordinators and EMS, like I said, as kind of leave behinds and that first real targeted piece of prevention and safety. So yeah.
Awesome.
I love that. Thank you so much, Marla. I love all that's going on. Like I said, I was talking with my friends in Southern California that have been doing a ton of work,
Oh.
obviously in their area with e-bikes and safety. So the more the merrier. We can get it across the country. And I
Yeah.
know New Jersey just passed a law recently as well, so they're getting legislation for that passed. And the more we can get out, the better.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
such a
And thanks
great
for everyone for
document.
sharing. And Catherine, we'll get a podcast going and we'll let you guys
Yeah.
all know when we've got our podcast recorded on this. And
Yeah.
we'll see you in 3 months for the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.